Oh, in this lab, what we're going to have a look at is deploying a virtual machine. So we're going to have a look at modifying a virtual machine, in the case of its hardware, converting a virtual machine to a template. We'll then deploy a virtual machine from that template. We'll then convert the template back into a virtual machine. So in order to do all of this, what I need to do is just find my virtual machine. So I'm going to do this by finding VMs and templates. We've got two virtual machines. I'm just going to work on VM051. So I'll right-click my virtual machine, edit the settings. Based off editing the settings, in the case of this lab, what we're concerned about really is the hardware. So we can see the hardware in place here. I could increase the size of the memory, say up to 512 megabytes. So we'll do that now. Now that we've increased that, we can increase the number of virtual CPUs. Now, because this is Enterprise Plus and it is vSphere version 5, we could take this up to 32 virtual CPUs. In the case of the RAM, that could have went up to a terabyte. We've got video card, VMCI, which is the VM communication interface channel, which just is used for communicating between virtual machines. We have our SCSI controller, the hard disk used to actually store the operating system for the virtual machine. I've got the CD/DVD drive here that I can modify, add an ISO image, or actually add a CD itself. I've got the network adapter, and we're currently sitting on VM network. Now, for the purpose of this lab, all we're going to do here is we're just going to modify the network that this virtual machine is sitting on, and we're going to stick it on our production network. We're taking it out of test, we're putting it into production. Also, what we've got here is we've got the floppy drive. Let's be honest, don't really need the floppy drive, so I'll just remove that now. Now that I've done all of that, we'll click the OK button. That is the virtual machine now modified. We'll just wait for all the changes to occur down at the bottom. So task 2 of this lab is to actually convert the virtual machine into a template. Nice and straightforward. Right click on the virtual machine, click on template, and convert to template. What this will do now is it will take the virtual machine's VMX file and rename it to a VMTX file. Now what we can do is we can now use this template to deploy new virtual machines with a similar sort of setup and operating system and applications that the original virtual machine had. So now we've done this, what we're going to do is we're just going to deploy a virtual machine from this template. So we right click on the template, deploy the virtual machine from the template. We need to give the virtual machine a name, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to call it Brian 05-1, 5 being the server I'm currently on. Stick it in my lab team folder, click my next button. I'm going to stick it on server 5, click my next button. Now what I'll do here is I'll just leave it on server 5, I won't bother putting it in any resource pools. Click my next button. I'm going to store it on my local storage, so click my next button. As we can see up the top here, we've got a number of different options actually when we drop this. We can either thick provision lazy 0, this is where we create a hard disk of whatever size that we specified in the template, and what we then do is we just zero it out as required. Thick provision eager zeroing actually zeroes out all of the space as we create the virtual hard disk, and thin provisioning just means that the virtual machine only takes up as much space really as is required. I'll stick it with the same format as source, stick it on my local data store, click my next button. Now what I'll do, I'll also power on the virtual machine after creation. And what I'm going to do here to make this virtual machine unique, I'm going to customize it by using an existing customization specification. And this is one I created earlier. So we'll click next. Read down through my summary. Now what we'll do is we'll click the finish button. As we can see down at the bottom now, we're now creating the virtual machine. So what I'll do is I'll just right click on the virtual machine and just open the console. Now what I'll do here, rather than sitting watching this, we'll just pause the video and return back to it as it approaches 100%. Okay, we're getting close, so it's about time for the virtual machine to restart itself. So we can see it's running through customizing now. Power on my virtual machine, I should see something pop up on the screen now. So we should see the virtual BIOS fairly quickly. So here you go, virtual BIOS kicking in. It's loading the operating system. Here's Windows Server 2003. Now even when this comes up, we'll still have to wait for it to do one restart and then run through the guest customization. So all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to pause the video again at this point here, and we'll come back to it as it does its restart. Okay, the virtual machine's doing its restart. What we'll see is when it comes up now, we'll see it actually doing its guest customization. Now anybody familiar with Microsoft operating system should see that this is running a sysprep. Sysprep files were installed on my virtual center server. They were installed in a specific folder that allows the operating system to customize itself. This will give me a unique virtual machine with a unique name and a unique IP address. So here you go, customization's in progress. Won't take too long, and then we'll see the sysprep process kick in. So now go on its way. There's Windows setup occurring. Next thing we should see is the guest customization occurring. And here we go. Windows setup, sysprep, running through guest customization. Next thing it's going to do, it's just going to give me another restart, and when the thing comes back up again, I should be able to log in as my administrator user and have an identical virtual machine to the lab VM that I actually created the template from. I have virtual machines up, so let's just log in. So when we come now, as we can see, we've got all the icons on here. Got the VMware tools installed. If I just actually edit the settings on this virtual machine, what we should find, we've got the 512 megabyte, and we're sitting on the production network. Floppy disk drive has gone, so click OK at this point here. So we've now created a virtual machine based off the template. The next thing to do is convert the template back to a virtual machine. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to take this template, convert it to a virtual machine. We're going to stick it back on our server, SC Server 5. Click our Next button. Again, stick it on the server. Click our Next button. Click our Finish button. We see the icon change. We've actually named the VMTX file back to a VMX file. What we can also do with this virtual machine now is we can rename it in the inventory. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to call this one Brian 05-2. So that's all done now. We'll just power on this virtual machine, wait for the bar to finish. Just open up a console of the virtual machine just so we can watch it starting. Here you go, virtual machine starting up. Shouldn't take too long, and then we'll have an identical Windows Server 2003 server which matches up to Brian 05-1. So it's up and running, so let's just log into it. And here you go, here's all the icons yet again, similar to what we've got on the Brian 05-1 machine. We've also got the VMware tools installed. If we just edit the settings on this virtual machine, what we can see here, 512 meg, production network, no floppy disk drive. Click OK here. So now what we've done, we now have two virtual machines running, identical virtual machines, and in the next lab, we'll try to make one more important than the other. So that's the end of Lab 2 in the case of the overview course. Thanks very much.